the knowledge economy. And India has attracted the attention of the whole globe with its fastest growing knowledge sector. The Planning Commission of Government of India highlighted that IT had made a revolutionary change in the total setup of the trade, in the total development of the country. And if I say, I think it will not be an exaggeration to say that the IT sector has put a multiplier, rather perceptible multiplier impact on the growth of the country. You just see the compound annual growth rate in software market revenue. It is 25.5%. And when you compare this growth rate with the China or in Japan, you can see the Chinese and Japanese markets, they grew with compound annual growth rate of 13.1% and 5.8% respectively in the same period. And then, my dear friends, a majority of Fortune 500 and Global 2000 corporations, they are sourcing IT and IT-enabled services from India. And the live example of it can be, I was in States, certain friends there, they were saying whensoever there comes a problem in the laptop, there comes a problem in the mobile, and we call customer care. The person who comes on the line, he or she is from India, sitting in Hyderabad, sitting in Bangalore, or even sitting in Chandigarh or Mohali. And then every rupee spent by information technology and information technology enabled services sector, that translates into a total output of rupees 2 in the economy. And the contribution of this sector to the country's gross domestic product has been steadily increasing from a share of 1.2% in financial year 98 to 5.8% in the financial year 9. So continuous rise and continuous growth that is seen. And the contribution again of the same sector to the foreign exchange reserves of the country by increasing export almost to the tune of 36%, and its direct employment has grown at a compound annual growth rate of 26% in the last decade. And the private sector of this sector has become the largest employer in our country. So, if I say that the country is on the threshold of becoming a knowledge superpower, because one of its strongest assets as a nation is the toiling nature and creativity of its people. Once upon a time, Japan used to say, you can have everything of our material resources, but you allow us to keep our human resources with us, we can attain the same level of development within no time. Now, the same has started happening in India, because all the IT engineers, all IITs, all IIMs, they are producing the stuff of that quality which is ultimately making its place not only in states, in many of the developed countries, and at the same time it is making its presence felt in the country itself. My paper concentrates mainly on the three parameters of economic growth. One is the revenue generation, second is export earnings, and the third one is employment generation. In my paper, what I have done is, I have studied the 20 top companies of IT sector on the basis of the National Association of Software Companies list, and I have studied them for the financial year 9-10 in order to find out their contribution in comparison to the performance of whole IT sector in the country. Friends, revenue generation from ITO BPO industry is continuously on the rise, and the performance in the export area is indicative of the fact that the Indian IT skills have been recognized all over the world and are contributing significantly to the economic development of the country. In a little over a decade, India has emerged as a major exporter of software in the international economy. You just go through the table and then you will find from this table that ITO BPO grew by 12% in the year 2009 to reach US $71.7 billion in aggregate revenue, whereas the software and services exports, including exports of IT services, BPO, engineering services and R&D and software products, they reached around 47 US billion dollars, contributing nearly 66% to the overall IT BPO revenues. And then IT BPO exports, they reached US $47 billion in the year 2009 as against $40.9 billion in the financial year 2008. So a growth of 16% that was attained. And at the same time, the domestic IT market, including hardware, it ultimately got 24.3 billion US dollars in the year 2009 as against US $23.1 billion in the year 2008, a growth of 5.3%. So the table signifies that growth in terms of exports and growth in terms of the domestic market that is taking place simultaneously in both the years. Then comes the contribution product, again an important indicator of growth of the country. And when we see the contribution of this sector, it was merely 0.59% in the year 94-95, and when we go to the 9-10 year, it becomes 5.8. So it's a significant increase, number one. Number two, the increase is consistent and steady. So then comes the third factor, the employment generation. Again, you can have a look at the table. The table shows that the direct employment in Indian IT BPO crossed the 2.2 million mark, an increase of about 2,26,000 professionals over the financial year 2008, whereas the indirect job creation is estimated at about 8 million. So if we have the direct and indirect employment, it comes around more than 10 million jobs created by the sector. IT services, including the engineering services, R&D, exports, BPO exports, and domestic IT industry, provides direct employment to 9,47,000, 7,90,000, and 5 lakh professionals respectively. So this is again a good figure which signifies that this sector is significantly contributing as far as the employment generation is concerned. Then, my dear friends, the contribution of top 20 companies, as I discussed, that my paper basically is focused on the study of the 20 top companies. The top 20 IT companies of India had average revenues of US 2 billion in 2009-10. These companies managed to match the Indian GDP of 8.4% in rupee terms to report a combined revenue of 39.52 US billion dollars in the year 2009-10 compared to 1,74,605 crores in the financial year. The 14 companies out of these had a revenue of $1 billion and above during the period. The top, if I have the data of 200 top companies, the top 200 IT companies posted total revenue of rupees 3071.2.6 billions in the year, or a growth of 6.2%. And again, very interesting fact, the number of the companies registering zero or negative growth this year rose to 68 compared to a 28 year ago. The following table highlights the company-wise revenue generation and its growth. You can well imagine the growth is positive, barring just 1, 2, 3 companies. So these top companies, top 20 companies, earned almost 58% of the total revenue earned by the top IT sector, which is a remarkable contribution and which shows that though the whole IT sector is playing an important role, but the top 20 companies, they are playing a major role as far as the development is concerned. I was just sharing.
Yeah. Revenue means net profit of the company or sales turnover?
Sales.
Sales. Okay.
Sales, revenue in terms of sales.
Okay, thank you.
I was just sharing with my friend in the next room. He was just telling that again it shows similar situation. One time we have read somewhere that 95% of the wealth of the world that is occupied or captured by 5% of the people and 5% remains. So this is a trend that all big guns in top 20 companies, they are having more than 60% in everything. Though then he asked me that what's the role of the new coming up companies in this competitive market and the small sector. Then I said, nowadays even then we don't have the problem. The small sector companies, they manage to get some sort of outsourcing from variety of countries now. 2-3 factors are there. The Indian people, because of the largest English speaking force now, because that is going to be a major role and that has played a major role as far as the IT people are concerned. Technology, okay, many people in many countries, they acquire the technology, but at the same time you have to translate and transform that technology into the language communicable and understandable to the world at large. So because of that English speaking skills, the Indian IT graduates, they dominated, they excelled. Even nowadays, what is happening? The more stress is on one thing. Everywhere in every curriculum, we have the course of soft skills. Along with the technology, along with the management, along with the computers, there is a course of soft skills, there is a course of developing communication skills. Then comes the export earnings by top 20 IT companies in India. The total export revenues by all the 20 companies comes out to be rupees 1,29,646 crore, or we can translate them into US billion dollars, that is 27.4 US billion dollars, and this comes again to be 58%. Contribution in terms of revenue is almost 58%, and by chance the contribution or the export earnings, they again comes to be 58% of the export revenues. So again the major share in exports, that is again by these top 20 companies as per the NESCOM list. Then comes number of employees, because third parameter is employment generation. So TCS comes to be the major employer. They are employing more than 1,63,700 people. Infosys 1,13,796. Wipro, then CTS, HCL, IBM India, Accenture, Tech Mahindra, Oracle, Patni Computers. So the top 20 companies, they occupy the total number of 1 crore. The number is roughly again 50% of the total workforce employed in the IT sector. So my study that reveals that okay, the whole IT sector is no doubt playing an important role as far as the total economic development of the country is concerned. The share of the service sector is again on the rise. At the same time, it might have and it must have affected the share of agriculture. Basically, at one point of time, India was considered to be an agrarian economy. Industrialization has taken place, but now ultimately India has found that it must go ahead with its knowledge sector. Friends, again I want to share one thing very important with you, because that has a strict correlation with my country. It's not now that the knowledge is there. Basically, India was considered to be the ultimate source of knowledge. The first university of the world, Texla, long back, if we go the ages back, the first university of the world, Texla, that was there in India. So knowledge was there. The first epic of the world, that is Mahabharata, that was written in India. And then the latest scripture, Guru Granth Sahib, that is in India. So knowledge hub was there. Whatsoever science and technology is talking today, that has been talked 700, 8 or 1000 years ago in the country. So now again what we have got, we have identified our strength, we have identified our strong point, that okay, this is the only sector in which we can ultimately make our presence felt. And this knowledge sector contributing not only to the Indian economic growth, it's playing a significant role as far as the global development is concerned, because outsourcing, though anybody can name it like anything, but ultimately it is because of the skill and because of the intelligence, because of the intellectual capability that we are playing. So if I'm to conclude, we can say the IT sector is playing a major role in the economic growth of the country. Its contribution in the GDP is near 6%. It has also a major share in the export revenue of the country. The IT sector also contributes major share in the field of employment generation. The top 20 companies have been proving very vital for the overall development of the country. The IT industry in India has also witnessed a massive change, growth and development over the years. The industry analysts, again one very important prediction, the industry analysts are predicting rapid strides in software technology development in India in the very near future. As per the National Association of Software and Service Companies, the Indian IT exports are anticipated to touch US $175 billion mark by the year 2020, out of which the domestic sector will account for US $50 billion in the earnings. In total, the export and domestic IT sector are expected to attain profits amounting to US $225 billion, along with the new prospects from BRIC. Again, now BRIC nations, they are considered to be the major outcome in the system. Brazil, Russia, India and China and Japan for its outsourcing operations. In addition, the growth of IT sector may also bring about a corresponding growth in employment, exports, foreign direct investments, etc. So IT sector is intimately linked to other sectors like biomedical technology, defense, infrastructure. So if I say IT sector has a strong bearing on the growth of the nation, and there is every reason to hope that in times to come the role of this sector in the economic growth of India will be still more vital and visible. And that's all, my dear friends. Thank you very much.
Questions?
Yeah. Yes, ladies.
Can you explain more how important the soft skill in the IT?
Yeah.
Explain more the soft skill you mentioned earlier in the IT industry.
Pardon, I'm not getting you.
How soft skills are crucial for the IT industry.
Yeah, soft skills are crucial for further IT, because ultimately IT people, they have to translate something via some language, and soft skill is the skill of presenting yourself to the whole globe. Because now when we talk of globalization, when we talk of global unification, when we talk that the whole globe is going to be a small village, so for that survival you have no option but to go in for that soft skills, communication skills, the skills to present yourself better in an understandable manner to the whole world. Otherwise this software technology or IT technology, the people won't be in a position to sell the things in the market or to interact with the world at whole.
You mean, so in the universities there are certain subjects to teach the soft
Yes.
skills?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. In universities now we have made it mandatory for even from the undergraduate level, at the first year level of the graduation. What we have done is we have introduced one course in soft skills and communication skills.
I think many universities have the communication skills subject.
Yeah.
Other universities we also have. But what are the soft skills beside the communication skills?
Yeah, at the same time, we have no option. We had to have it. Yes. Yes,
So
sir.
two questions after that. One question is, strength, super strength in IT industry in India means relative weakness in manufacturing sector in India.
Yeah.
Question number one. Question number two, in a longer term point of view, as a historian, which country may challenge India in knowledge-based industry?
Okay. The first question is, no doubt the manufacturing sector, it is getting weaker and weaker nowadays. As far as the manufacturing, the collaborations are taking place. Certain MNCs, they have brought certain things of their own in the country because of the openness and liberalization. So now what we are doing and pursuing is, okay, let the manufacturers from outside India, they should come here, they should assemble and they should get the things done here. As I told you that we have ultimately identified our strength. So that is in the knowledge sector. Now the second thing comes about your question, in the long run, who may challenge India.
Yeah.
What we feel is, there are two things.
Okay.
Number one, at least for 20-30 years now we don't face any challenge.
Okay.
Because of one reason, that India is going to be the country with maximum youngest population. That is going, at one point of time, the population which used to be a hindrance and obstacle, now that is going to be an asset for the country. So maximum youngest population, and that too is going to be a productive and constructive population. Number one. Number two, this youngest population, again I'm emphasizing that is going to be expert as far as the language skills are concerned, as far as the global language is concerned. So now what we are trying, rather instead of getting the challenge, we are trying that we are giving challenge to the China, who is considered to be the number one economy. So we hope to cross China by 2020. So
What time frame?
2020 by 2020.
20.
That's a big target.
Yeah, that's the target, and that's the target given by our previous president APJ Abdul Kalam, who was a great scientist. So now even the country is managed by the Prime Minister, who is an economist of great repute. And one jokingly, one thing Barack Obama said, that he has started saying to the people there, okay, what you should do is teach your kids. Oh, mothers, teach your kids. Ultimately what will happen if you don't do it, some Indian may come and will get your job. So that is there. Thank you.